Hello to all of our YouTube friends from Tom and Dana at If This Car Could Talk. Welcome to episode 43, where we know you're going to love today's history lesson on this sleeper collectible Chevrolet Camaro IROC Z. If you missed the full feature and owner Mike Lamberth narrating the car's fascinating story, look it up or watch it again. This is the cleanest IROC we've ever seen, and Mike's devotion to its proper care is admirable. Now for part 2 of the IROC Camaro's place among the most legendary offerings from General Motors in their F-body class. So, let's go for a ride. The Camaro has always been an iconic and solid part of GM's passenger car offerings since 1967. Except for a brief hiatus from 2003 to 2009, many different versions were engineered, marketed, and sold, from basic transportation to fire-breathing performance. The feature car this week is a proud member of the sometimes forgotten chapter in the long history of this legendary Chevy. The IROC Z was produced in very limited numbers from 1985 through 1990, all within the design parameters of the third-generation F-body cars, as was its sister car, the Pontiac Firebird, gaining new suspension, braking, and drivetrain technology on a yearly basis. Of course, safety features as well as exterior and interior design features would also be evident year to year. Color choices and interior trim would vary slightly as their other Camaro cousins evolved as well. It can be argued that the pinnacle of this model was produced for 1989, because the 1990 version was exactly the same. No further improvements were deemed necessary since GM knew that 1990 would be the final year for the IROC Z. The model name designation was derived from the exciting racing series known as the International Race of Champions, a North American auto racing competition. It was founded by Les Richter, Roger Penske, and Mike Phelps, all legendary names in various forms of auto racing. In addition, the owner of Southern California's Ontario Motor Speedway, David Lockton, would also offer his expertise in the final development of the then newest auto racing series. Its creation began in 1972, and its first official race was the following year, where Mark Donohue took the first win in a Porsche Carrera RSR. Donohue also went on to win the championship in 1974 in the fourth and final race of that season. It was to be his final win in any auto racing series, because he tragically died in a horrific Formula One crash during practice runs for the 1975 Austrian Grand Prix. He was truly one of the best drivers to ever suit up and get behind the wheel of any race car. Despite the name, the IROC was primarily associated with North American oval track racing, even though well-established road courses were also used until 1992, when the series went exclusively to road courses. In this newly sanctioned auto racing series, selected drivers fielded identically prepared stock cars that were set up by a single team of mechanics in an effort to make the race purely a test of driver ability, not who had the best prepped car or pit crew. It was run with a small field of 12 invited drivers. It was very popular with all sorts of auto racing fans because top drivers from several different disciplines could all be seen competing on an intentionally level playing field. Some well-known drivers were not able to compete because of contractual agreements they had, which is unfortunate. It was really like Major League Baseball's annual All-Star Game, where only the top athletes make the cut. As mentioned, the cars that were used exclusively for the entire inaugural season were supplied by Porsche with their exhilarating 911 Carrera RSR models. They proved to be temperamental, and many of the mechanics found them challenging to work on, in addition to being a costly vehicle to acquire and maintain. So the decision to continue on with a more traditional American car was made. The ubiquitous Camaro was selected, and from 1975 through the 1989 racing season, Camaros were used exclusively in the series, replaced by the Dodge Daytona in 1990, then the Dodge Avenger in 1994. And finally, the Pontiac Trans Am was used through the demise of this exciting series in 2006. For whatever reason, this racing series was not run in 1981, 82, or 83. IROC went on hiatus in 2007 because sponsorship could not be secured. They were hoping to return with a major sponsor for 2008, but that never materialized. Sadly, in March of 2008, IROC auctioned off its remaining assets and properties and quietly went out of business. When Chevy dealers in North America debuted their 1985 lineup of new cars, the thrilling new IROC Z could finally be ordered by enthusiasts. Still smack dab in the middle of the third generation F-body cars, this was a needed new model option for the Chevrolet line because the Camaro had lost a lot of sales to its sister division Pontiac. The IROC Z was designated RPO B47 and could only be ordered with the Z28 option package. This would be true through the 1987 model year. Please note that these cars were never known as an IROC Z28, even though they were a sub-series of the Z28. To continually improve the cars and to make them desirable to street car enthusiasts, the ride height was lower than a standard Z28 and also featured performance-calibrated front struts and springs, Bilstein rear shocks, and 16-inch aluminum wheels with Goodyear Eagle 245/50/16 tires. These modifications greatly improved handling and braking, producing never-before-seen skid pad numbers on a Chevrolet other than a Corvette. Of course, what good is a tribute to a race car if what's under the hood is not equally exciting? The freshman offering was the brand new TPI 305, which boasted 215 horsepower and 275 foot-pounds of torque. This would be the most powerful 305 automatic combo ever offered in the IROC Z. Other available engines were the 190 horsepower HO 4-barrel carbureted 305 and the standard output 155 horse LG4 version. The IROC also came with a freshly redesigned front fascia with a more rounded appearance and a deeper chin spoiler with lower ground effects. It now looked the part of a race car with its new stance and IROC exclusive body panels. Residing over any of the three available 305 V8s was an impressive looking hood sporting fake hood louvers. This hood was exclusive to the Z28 and the IROC. Visually, not much changed on the 86 IROC except for the addition of a government-mandated third brake light. It almost seems like an afterthought because it was placed on the exterior at the top of the rear hatch near the roofline. Many enthusiasts and purists alike felt that this high-mount stop lamp detracted from its otherwise beautiful body lines. Rear window louvers became a factory option this year. Some of the 86 IROCs also came with the new 140 mph speedometer. 1986 would also be the first year for the superior base coat, clear coat paint system. As was the case in 1986, the 1987 cars brought about only minor changes to the IROC package. The most obvious difference under the hood was that the legendary small block engine now utilized the new center bolt style heads and manifolds. They had a revised bolt hole angle to accommodate the redesigned cylinder heads. All power plants also now made the switch to a hydraulic roller camshaft. This yielded a 3.5% increase in fuel mileage and an extra 5 horsepower. The TPI 350 engine option was now widely available, but unfortunately only came backed by the 700 R4 overdrive automatic. This year would prove to be the highest production of the entire series. The big news for 1987 was the addition of a new Camaro convertible. This would be the first of this body style for the F-body since 1969. It was not a factory-built car, but rather a conversion done by ASC. Available in the base series, IROC and Z28, it proved not to be very popular, most likely due to the final price. Nevertheless, both the coupe and its drop-top counterpart would be available for the remainder of IROC Z production. Visually, the 87 is identical to the 86 model, except that the third brake light moved from up on the rear hatch to now being integrated into the rear spoiler. It looked much more aesthetically pleasing. The 1987 IROC would be the second best seller for the 6-year run of this performance Camaro. 1988 would bring about some noteworthy changes, namely the elimination of the Z28 option, leaving the IROC as the sole performance Camaro and finally its own model. As in 1987, a coupe and a convertible were available. Since the IROC replaced the Z28 from 1988 to 90, GM chose to use the Z28 RPO code for that option in those years. Incidentally, the Z28 resumed production as RPO Z28 for the 1991 model year as GM's licensing agreement with the International Race of Champions elapsed on December 31st, 1989. The limited number of 1990 IROC Zs were actually produced to this deadline in the last few months of 1989 as 1990 models, making the final year the lowest production number. These cars also benefited from some subtle and slightly revised exterior stylings. Welcome changes occurred in the horsepower department for the performance crowd. For the first time in the history of the Camaro, no carbureted engines were available. All motors offered fuel injection of some sort. The base IROC motor had the TPI injection that was very similar to other Chevrolet offerings. A new camshaft finally found its way into the 305 TPI and boosted horsepower to 195 with the automatic overdrive, and a stout 220 horses when backed with the T5 manual 5-speed. The only available 350 engine also got a small horsepower boost to 225. 1989 brought about some long overdue power increases. The TPI 305 5-speed soared to 230 horses if the dual catalytic converters were ordered. And with dual cats, the L98 350 suddenly had 240 ponies with a staggering 345 foot-pounds of torque. The TPI systems changed slightly. For the first time, the 9th cold start injector was no longer used. All standard Camaro colors were readily available, along with different interior trim motifs, accounting for many stunningly beautiful combinations, as is seen with last Sunday's feature car. At a quick glance, nothing changed significantly from the 1988 models. The newest version of the 1LE package now featured 4-wheel disc brakes with 12-inch front rotors and aluminum calipers at all 4 wheels, a 342 loaded rear axle with positive traction, a lighter weight aluminum drive shaft, an engine oil cooler, larger sway bars on the front and rear, and fuel tank baffles. Since 1990 would be the last IROC, Chevrolet didn't spend a lot of money on restyling the exterior, but the only obvious change inside the car was a required driver's side airbag in the steering wheel center and a revised instrument cluster. Since then, Chevrolet, as well as every other auto manufacturer, has upped their game on improving performance, handling, braking, safety, and fuel economy, leaving cars like the short-lived IROC Z a testament to the progression of the first Camaro in 1967 to the latest models of today. No matter how much better they become, there will always be a lot of people who love the vintage models for the memories they evoke and the fun that can be had in them. With a huge variety of performance and reproduction parts available through many different vendors, and the ease that these earlier models can be worked on by the average guy with some mechanical know-how and a decent set of tools, these vintage Camaros will always be popular. We hope you've enjoyed this look at the Chevrolet Camaro IROC Z models. As always, please give it a thumbs up and hit the free subscribe button so that you get to see all of our videos, brought to you twice a week now. Leave a comment and tell us if you have any fond memories of an IROC Camaro. Be sure to tune in next Sunday when we'll feature a tastefully modified and well-preserved 2012 Ford Mustang Shelby GT500 Coupe. Until then, stay out of trouble and keep enjoying cool cars.